Alright guys, so we're back. I want to say thanks first of all for the last video. You guys made it one of the most successful launches that we've had so far, as our channel is just starting and we're trying to grow it. The last video was a review of all the parts we used on our 351 stroker build. If you're looking to see that video or you didn't view it, make sure you hit the link, which might be here, I don't know, it's somewhere here, just click it. And just to let you know, we're trying to bring out the best videos that we can. Let us know what you like or dislike in the comments. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Alright guys, so let's get back on this 68 build. Everybody's sitting here asking me, when's it gonna start? When can we see it do stuff, do a burnout? I'm trying to get it done. It's just time, money, and making videos takes a little while. So let's get back to what we're after today. If you watched any of the previous videos, you know that we have to do some fuel system modifications. Some of the modifications include routing, and we're gonna be adding a sump to the tank. Why do we change the routing? Well, if you look over here, you usually would run from the pump to the regulator to a carburetor. You can do that because the carburetor has a fuel bowl, which is a little bit of a reserve, so you can regulate that coming in. You want to drop that pressure down. When you run an EFI system, like shown here, what happens is you run from the pump all the way to the EFI. You want to make sure that that's always full, and then you come back to the regulator and regulate what's left. So we want to change the routing in the car. For us, we could add a union, but I didn't want a leak path right above an exhaust manifold, so we're gonna be doing the lines from the front to the back. Also, I wanna add a sump to the tank. The stock design of the tank, as you can see over here, pulls fuel from the front of the tank. So when you accelerate hard, it's pulling fuel away from where you're trying to, feed it up to the motor. It's not really ideal, so we're gonna be adding that sump in. All of these things combined bring us to the video we have today. So what I did was I went to Summit and I got their fuel sump kit. So all it is right here is a fuel tank sump. See if we can open this thing up here. And what that is you're gonna weld this to the bottom of the fuel tank, and you can see there's two, these are 1/2-inch MPT fittings, and that's where I'm gonna be able to pick up from and go out to the fuel pump. The other one I'll just cap off. I don't need to. But all it is a piece of sheet metal pressed out. You can see it's kind of like a little bowl, and you weld this to the bottom of your tank. So, trying to be a little bit more safe about it than I used to be in my younger days, I went and got a new fuel tank. Fuel tank for the car was $137 at National Parts, so it wasn't a big deal. I'd rather be safe for 137 bucks than sorry. So just pulling this out, and see if you can see that. So this is the front of the tank. It would face the front of the vehicle, and this is the bottom, obviously. This is where you used to pull fuel from. That's still going to be my return. I'd like to return in this side, and this sump is going to weld in on the back side like this. So I'll return in this end, and it's going to suck it out the back side, which should work pretty good. Now, to run the sump, some of you guys might be thinking, well, you just trace this square out and you're going to cut that whole entire section out and then weld this in. Actually, that's not how I'm going to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a hole saw and I'm going to drill a hole right in the middle, and then I'm going to drill holes all the way around. I want to leave some of the integrity of the tank there, and then also I think, or I'm hoping, with just hole saws cut out, it's going to allow the fuel to come in and hopefully not slosh back up if I don't have a ton in the tank. It'll kind of keep it down in this area where the pump will be able to suck it out and go. So that's the way I'm going to do my setup. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to do it. You'll probably do it differently yourself, but this is the way I'm going to choose to do mine. So let's go ahead and we'll start laying it out. I'll show you how we do that. Alright, so I just spun the tank around. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera there, but that's where your fill is going to go in. On a Mustang, it comes right from the backside, right in between the taillights. So it's going to be directly above where we're going to put this. Obviously, I'm going to want this centered. So what we're going to do is measure from this side, make sure that that distance equals the distance here. And then we know that that's in the center. The only problem we're going to have, let me turn this thing sideways, you can see it has this shape here. It's not perfectly flat on the bottom like this sump was made for. If I wanted to stick it way back in here, yeah, it would work, but that's kind of ugly. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it up on this slope, and I'm going to make a little cut straight down, which will be straight down in here. and then I can fold the bottom end of this down this way so that it'll match this profile. And when we go to weld, I'll just weld that seam back up. It's not that big of a deal, and that'll give us the actual look that I'm after, and it'll give us a place to pull our fuel pump from, which is actually the best. As soon as you start accelerating, the fuel will come to the back side of the car, which will force it out these two fittings. One I'm going to cap off, but the other will go to the pump, and that's absolutely ideal for what we're trying to do with the vehicle. Again, like I said, if I do some hole saws in there, hopefully it'll keep some fuel in here. If we're going to go around a road course, the car is kind of built as a resto mod. I'd like to go to an autocross event here and there. So hopefully that will keep the fuel from just sloshing up and down in the tank. Those hole saws will just leave it kind of in this sump so that it can go out and be picked up properly. So let's go ahead, we'll get this thing marked up, and then I'll show you how we're going to cut it and bend the bottom of it over so it'll match our actual height. Alright guys, so I went ahead and measured from here over to, let's see if I can get my thumb over here now. I measured from the tip of this over to this inside line right here, and then from the other side to this little inside line right here. And I found out that 6 3/4 was the number I needed. Then I came up to the top and I measured 6 3/4 from here over the same line, so I know that that is square with the side of the tank. Took a black permanent marker and I just traced up, let's see if I can line this thing up here. I traced up the side like that. So you can see the little black line going left to right now. That's where I'm going to make a cut so that I can bend that last section right there downward to match up with the back side of the tank. So we're going to go ahead and make a pie cut in that, and then that'll bend down, and we can finish marking out exactly where our sump is so we know where to drill our holes. The front side I'm going to leave just inside of this radius, as you can see here. So I want to have it like this, and then we'll make a cut and we'll bend these down and we'll weld them into these little grooves that you see, and that's about it. I mean, it's not that hard. Okay, so let's see if you can see this here. So what I did was I cut the little flange on the outside and then all the way up and just into the top of that radius. What that's going to allow us to do is clamp this side down to the table, and we'll be able to bend this down. We'll have this steel, obviously it's going to go inside or outside of the back, and once we know where that's going to sit, we'll pie cut it, so I just have to fill one nice little piece here instead of, you know, making a pie cut too big or anything. So we're going to clamp it down now to the table like this and start bending it down this way. Alright guys, so we have our final layout. You can see the square here. We did have this little raised section right here. So what I did was, like I said, I made a pie cut, folded this side over top of this side. That gave us our nice bend. So now it lines up with the contour here. And what I did was I went ahead and I cut this out. So when we set it in place, you can see it goes right around that hump. So what I'm going to do is, once I get the front tacked, I'll start to bend this metal back down, and I can use that to weld onto there. Instead of trying to cut it and get a perfect cut, I can use this just to flip down and weld on. So with this roughly mocked up for now, as best we're gonna do, we now have our area. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut a couple holes in this so we can get fuel to drop from the tank into the sump. All right guys, so we went ahead, got our drill and our hole saw set up. This is a 4.5-inch hole saw. I'm gonna put this one directly in the center of our cutout. And I got an 1 3/4, and what I'm gonna do is run that just inside the 4 corners. So that's gonna give us a ton of area where this stuff's gonna fall in, but hopefully keep it a little bit down there so it doesn't start sloshing around. Let's go ahead and get these drilled. So as you can see, we have a good sized hole right in the center. Now we're gonna go ahead and run this little guy out here. So I'm going to put it kind of close to the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go ahead and get that drilled. Alright guys, so we have our 5 holes drilled. You can see I stayed quite a bit away from our edges. As you remember, the sump has that little bit of a flange that goes on here. So I don't want the hole to be too close and be dumping into the back of that flange. I want it to actually go down into that sump. Back here, our flange comes all the way out here, but you can see with this raised section, the fuel's gonna be in there, and then hopefully it's gonna fall into this hole, and this hole, as that's just kinda gonna go like that. So that's as far as we're gonna go for right now. I'm going to go ahead and deburr the back side of the hole. I don't want any of this little stuff getting into my fuel filter. So we're gonna deburr all of this. We're gonna go ahead and wire wheel the whole area where we wanna weld, and then we're gonna clean it with some acetone and we'll start welding. So there you go. Took about 15 minutes maybe, but now all the files are cleaned inside and out. I can run my fingers around all of them. I'm not gonna get cut. So I know none of the little burrs or anything are in there. Gonna have to worry about falling into the fuel filter. So what we're gonna do now is come back probably tomorrow right after work, and like I said, we'll wire brush this whole area, clean it with some acetone, and we'll start welding. I'm gonna use a TIG welder on this. I want some nice tight, small, pretty looking welds. So we're gonna TIG weld this thing on there, and we'll show you that whole process as we get into it.